Friday nights had a rhythm. I'd get home, drop my bag in the same corner, maybe microwave some leftovers, and Madison would already be in socks, curled up on the couch with a glass of wine and one of those terrible true crime docs she pretended not to like. Comforting, predictable, even if it was boring. But that Friday was different. It felt off before I even opened the door. As I parked the car, I noticed her silhouette on the balcony. Not unusual, but then I saw the faint glow of a cigarette in her hand. That stopped me. Madison quit smoking months ago. Or at least she said she did. The day she flushed a whole pack down the toilet, she gave this passionate monologue about self-respect and choosing health over habit. She made me swear I'd keep her accountable. I even did or tried to, but there she was, smoking like it was nothing. No shame, no effort to hide it. Like that promise she made me, to herself, didn't matter anymore. I didn't say anything. I figured I'd mention it later, maybe half joking like, so, the Marlboros made a comeback? But truthfully, it sat wrong with me. It wasn't about the cigarette. It was about what it symbolized, a promise broken, casually, like I wouldn't notice. Or like she didn't care if I did. I walked in through the front door, toolbox in hand. I'd borrowed it from my brother to fix the pantry hinge. Madison had reminded me about it a week ago, and even left a sticky note by the sink that said, "My night with the screwdriver hammer and wrench blue heart." I remember thinking it was cute at the time. Now, looking back, it feels almost mocking. As I stepped into the kitchen to set the box down, something else caught my eye. Her phone. It was sitting there on the table, screen facing up. Nothing unusual about that, either. But then it lit up. The screen glowed for a second, and a message preview appeared at the top. One line. Just enough to change everything. From a contact saved as J. Message preview. Left your sweater at my place, kitten. I just stood there. Felt like time froze. There was a weight in my chest. A slow, creeping nausea that started somewhere low in my gut and pushed its way up into my throat. Before I could process the message, the phone buzzed again. A photo this time. I didn't tap anything. I didn't need to. The preview showed enough. A luxury hotel room. Cream-colored sheets turned down neatly. A single wine glass on the nightstand. Dim ambient lighting. Nothing work-related about it. I didn't touch her phone. I wanted to. God, I wanted to. But something stopped me. Maybe the shock, or maybe it was that little part of me still clinging to the idea that this could somehow be explained. That's when I heard the sliding door open. Madison walked in from the balcony, exhaling a cloud of smoke like she was in an old noir film. Her expression was neutral, maybe even a little tired. She didn't seem surprised to see me standing there. Frozen. Her eyes flicked to the phone. She saw it. Knew exactly what had popped up. "Oh," she said, like she just remembered something. "That message? Not for me." I didn't say anything. I just stared at her, waiting. She stepped into the kitchen and picked up the phone, casually locking the screen without checking it. Then she smiled, the kind of smile people practice in front of mirrors. One of the girls on the SMM team, the one with the bangs, Jess? She meant to send it to her boyfriend but dropped it in our work chat by mistake. She said it was hilarious. Sent it with the wrong photo, too, from some hotel they stayed at during a client shoot. Her voice was quick. Too quick. Confident. Too confident. No hesitation. No processing. Just a ready-made answer, like she'd been waiting for this moment, or had rehearsed for it. Still, I said nothing. I wanted to believe her. I really, really did. But my eyes caught on something else. A little detail that shattered the illusion. Dangling from her keychain was a plastic hotel keycard. A pale, embossed logo I'd seen before in that photo. Same shape. Same hotel. She noticed me noticing. "That?" she said, holding up her keys with a light laugh. "Oh, that's from a shoot. The agency booked that hotel for an ad campaign. I didn't even stay the night. Just used the room to prep wardrobe. I kept the card by accident. They're always using luxury spots for visuals. Makes clients feel special." Her tone was light, bored even, like it wasn't worth discussing. She dropped her keys in the bowl by the door and poured herself a glass of water like nothing had happened. Like I hadn't just watched an entire scene play out in front of me that didn't make sense, or made too much sense. And me? I stood there trying to decide whether I was crazy or if she was just that good. It's hard to explain, but something about that moment changed things. Not in a dramatic soap opera way. Not immediately, but subtly, like something in the air had shifted and wouldn't go back. I wasn't looking for anything when I walked into that kitchen. I was just trying to fix a hinge, but I left it broken. Instead, I walked back into the living room, sat on the couch, and stared at the muted television. I don't even remember what was on. Probably some cooking competition or the tail end of the news. The volume was down, but I wasn't really hearing anything anyway. Just the echo of her voice, calm, sweet, believable, repeating, "That message wasn't for me." She didn't bring it up again that night. Neither did I. She curled up beside me eventually, barefoot, sipping wine and scrolling through her phone. I couldn't tell if she was texting Jay or placing a grocery order. I didn't ask. I just nodded when she showed me a TikTok she found funny, even though I didn't really see it. Later, after she went to bed, I walked back into the kitchen. The wine glass she left behind still had her lipstick print on the rim. Her phone wasn't there anymore, but the hotel keycard, that was still in the bowl. And suddenly, I wasn't sure what I was looking at anymore. A mistake? A misunderstanding? Or the beginning of something I didn't want to see? All I knew for sure was that something had cracked. Just a little. Just enough to let the doubt in. And once it was in, it wouldn't leave. After that Friday night, something inside me didn't go back to normal. Not fully. I didn't say anything to Madison the next morning. What could I even say? Hey, remember that suspicious message with the hotel photo and the keycard you casually lied about? Felt pointless. If she really was cheating, then calling her out would just make her bury it deeper. And if she wasn't, well, then I was the one tearing at the seams. So I stayed quiet. But that silence did something. It sharpened my senses. It made me notice things I'd ignored for months. Things I used to brush off with quick logic or tired excuses. The problem with hindsight is that once it starts kicking in, it doesn't stop. It builds momentum. One memory triggers the next and then another. Soon, you're digging through a pile of little nothings that suddenly add up to something. Like the cologne. 3 weeks before the message. I remember it clearly now. I was moving a bag of groceries from the back of Madison's car. I popped the trunk and saw a small gift bag shoved off to the side. Inside, it was a brand new bottle of men's cologne. Not the generic Dr. store kind. This one had weight, design, name brand etched in gold on black. It was still wrapped with the receipt tucked underneath. I called out to her, "Hey, whose is this?" She looked over from the porch, squinted, then laughed. "Oh, no, that's mine. I won it in some random Instagram quiz. Was gonna regift it to my brother." Then she changed the subject before I could ask what kind of Instagram quiz gives out $150 cologne. At the time, I didn't think much of it. I'd always told myself Madison was full of odd little surprises. Creative, unpredictable. That was part of her charm. But now, that memory played differently. Not quirky, calculated. And then there was the dress. A black one. Elegant. Sleeveless. Soft fabric with a slight shimmer under the light. I found it while searching for a hoodie in our shared closet. It wasn't hanging. It was folded and stuffed into an old shoebox. Tags still on. Hidden, basically. I pulled it out and stared at it for a minute, confused. "Didn't know you bought a new dress," I said when she came home. She glanced at it, smiled casually. "Oh, that? Tried it on for a shoot. Didn't even wear it. Probably gonna return it." But she didn't. That dress stayed hidden for another week, until one night it disappeared. No explanation. No event. No presentation or dinner that she told me about. It just vanished. And again, I convinced myself not to dig deeper. That was my biggest flaw. I didn't want to know, because knowing meant change, and change meant pain. But now that I'd seen the message from Jay, the cologne, the dress, the way she lit that cigarette like she'd never promised to quit, it all started rearranging itself in my head, like puzzle pieces falling into place. And the more I looked back, the more I realized how many things had gone quietly wrong. She used to watch movies with me on Sundays. That stopped. She used to fall asleep beside me on the couch. That stopped too. I'd wake up in the middle of the night and see the bathroom light under the door. Sometimes I'd hear the faint sound of her voice. Low, laughing, like she was talking to someone, then suddenly go quiet the moment I shifted. She started using her phone differently too. Sound always off. Screen always down. Notifications muted. Apps that required passcodes. One night, I watched her delete an entire message thread, lock her phone, and set it face down without a word. When I asked who she was talking to, she smiled and said, "Just work people. We're launching a campaign. Tons of moving pieces." Then there was the Zoom. That became her go-to excuse. Late Zoom calls. Urgent brainstorming sessions. Last-minute client check-ins. There was always some digital reason she couldn't be home on time or had to close the bedroom door for hours at night. But one evening, she came home after one of these Zooms, wearing fresh makeup. Not just foundation, the whole deal. Winged eyeliner, glossed lips. That same perfume she only used for weddings or upscale dinners. I kissed her cheek hello and it smelled expensive. New. I asked if the meeting went well, and she said, "Oh yeah, just internal stuff." That's when I started noticing her contradictions. Subtle ones. Like when she'd say she was exhausted from work, then scroll Instagram and post a story with a drink in her hand. Or how she'd tell me she was heading out for errands, then come home 2 hours later without a single shopping bag. Just a coffee cup and red cheeks like she'd been out in the wind too long. One night, she texted me from the bedroom. "Already asleep. Don't forget to lock the door, red heart." Sweet, right? Except I was on the couch, and I could see her reflection in the balcony window. She was out there talking on the phone, smiling, laughing, not asleep. I didn't say anything. I don't know why. Maybe I was scared of hearing her lie again. There's a moment when your relationship starts to feel like theater. Like you're watching scenes unfold instead of living them. Like the person across from you is playing a role, and you don't know if they're acting or if you're just no longer part of the script. That's how it felt with Madison. Everything was right. On the surface. She'd still touch my shoulder when she passed me in the kitchen. Still kiss me goodbye before work. Still laugh at my dumb jokes about cereal commercials and our neighbor's weird dog. But there was a hollowness to it, like she was hitting all her marks without actually showing up. I remember asking her one night, as casually as I could, "Hey, do you think we've been drifting lately?" She blinked, surprised. "Drifting? No. Why? Do you?" I shrugged. "I don't know. Just feels like you've got your own thing going. I don't want to lose that connection." She smiled soft, reassuring. "You're just imagining it, babe. Things are fine." But things weren't fine. They hadn't been for a while. And now, looking back at the way she answered so quickly. Not hurt, not confused, just efficient. I wonder if she already knew I was asking because I felt it slipping away. One morning, she left her laptop open on the kitchen counter while she was showering. I shouldn't have looked. I know that. But curiosity is a cruel thing. It doesn't care about boundaries when you're drowning in doubt. There wasn't anything blatant. No love letters. No red-hot messages. But there was something off. She had 2 Chrome profiles. One for work, one unlabeled. The second one had private tabs open. A hotel booking site. A folder named Brand Shoots Private. And one email chain with the subject line, "Re. Last Wednesday, Blue Heart." I didn't open it. Couldn't. That was my line. That's where I stopped myself because deep down, I knew that crossing it meant confirming everything I was terrified of. But from that day forward, I no longer believed in the version of my life I thought I was living. I had been in love with someone who may have only been acting like they loved me back. Not cheating yet, but performing. Rehearsed affection. Curated smiles. And I started to wonder if I was just part of the audience. Applauding her lines, even when I knew the script was starting to fall apart. It was early March when she told me about the event. Some kind of private presentation for select partners. Her words, not mine. I remember how she said it over breakfast, stirring honey into her tea like it was just another Tuesday. She wore that soft cashmere sweater she always picked on big days. Hair pinned just right, lips barely glossed. Her voice was calm, practiced, almost too neutral. I nodded, pretending to sip my coffee, pretending not to care. "Where is it?" I asked. She glanced up. "That new loft near River Street. You know, the one with the glass ceiling? Looks kind of like a greenhouse, but expensive." I shrugged like I didn't know it. But I did. I knew exactly where it was because, later that night, I found the invitation, printed on thick ivory paper, wedged between some folders in her tote bag. I shouldn't have gone through it. I'll own that. But she left it hanging open on the dining chair, and the edge of the envelope was sticking out like it wanted to be found. Like it was daring me. The invite said the event started at 6:30. Business cocktail attire. Closed to media. That last part made me laugh under my breath. No press. No photos. No questions. Fitting. For the next few days she acted normal. Better than normal, actually. Affectionate. Smiling more. She made breakfast on Thursday, Real eggs, not toast, and asked about my project deadlines, even though she never asked about work. She even kissed me twice before leaving for the office. I'd read somewhere that cheaters sometimes overcompensate, that they act more loving when they're hiding something. I didn't believe it until I saw it firsthand. She was performing. For me. For herself. For the version of our life she was still pretending existed. But I had stopped being a spectator. I decided I would go. Not to make a scene. Not to confront her. I just needed to see her in that space. The one she'd carved out of lies and excuses. I needed to see if I recognized the person she was when she thought I wasn't looking. So I charged my old DSLR, the one we used to take on trips before everything got replaced by phone cameras. I packed it quietly into my work bag, next to a neutral blazer I hadn't worn since a cousin's wedding. Then I mapped out the venue, checked the exits, planned where I'd park, how I'd stand. I didn't want to be noticed. I just wanted to see. When Friday came, she left early. Said she had to prep. Said she might stay late for a debrief dinner. Said not to wait up. "I'll be dead tired anyway," she added with a soft smile. "It's mostly speeches and schmoozing." I nodded, told her to crush it. Watched her leave in a black coat with that same structured bag. She smelled like vanilla and ambition. I waited 2 hours before leaving. Drove halfway across town with the windows cracked. One hand clenched on the wheel, the other checking the time too often. When I arrived, the sun was dipping low. Golden hour. The loft looked like it belonged in an art magazine. All glass walls and industrial beams, with soft jazz floating out into the street. I stayed outside at first, across the road, half-shadowed by a tree. From there, I could see silhouettes, maybe 30 people inside. All stylish. All clinking glasses. There were waiters weaving through with trays, an event banner near the bar, and bright sponsor signs glowing from overhead projectors. I crossed the street slowly, camera hanging loose on my shoulder. I didn't go in. I stood just inside the main entryway, near the frosted glass wall, like I was waiting for someone. No one questioned me. Everyone was too busy being important. And then I saw her. Madison. She walked into view from the side hallway, laughing. She looked radiant. Makeup sharp, posture upright, heels tapping with a kind of command. She wore the black dress. That black dress. The one she'd hidden in the shoebox. It shimmered softly in the light, delicate straps framing her shoulders like architecture. But she wasn't alone. A man walked beside her, tall, good posture, expensive suit. His hand brushed her lower back as they moved together. And she didn't flinch. They stopped near the center of the room, talked to a small group, laughed again. He leaned close, whispered something into her ear. She tilted her head toward him with familiarity. Not discomfort, not surprise, like it was routine. Then the music faded and someone grabbed a microphone. "Good evening," the host announced. "Tonight's special segment highlights some of the rising stars in our creative community. Let's welcome Madison Carter, the agency's new creative director, and her fiancé, Jacob Lawson." The word hit me like a car door slamming shut. Fiancé. I didn't breathe. Madison smiled and stepped forward as the spotlight turned on them. She glanced sideways at Jacob, That's what they called him. And then, without hesitation, she kissed him. Not on the cheek. Not fast. Not the kind of kiss you give for a photo op or a joke. It was full. Slow. Intentional. She cupped the side of his face as the room clapped, as if she wanted it to last, wanted everyone to see. And someone did see. Me. I raised the camera instinctively, not thinking, not even fully aware. My fingers found the shutter, and I pressed it. The flash fired. Just once. No one noticed. At least not her. Not him. They were still locked together when the image burned into my screen. And just like that, I had proof, not just of cheating, not just of lies, but of an entire second life. She wasn't on a business trip. She wasn't prepping a presentation. She was engaged. To someone else. And every night she'd come home to me, kiss my cheek, ask me to grab oat milk. She was already living two futures. One with me, one with him, and I was the ghost in both. I backed out quietly before the applause ended. Walked back to the car in silence. Didn't cry. Didn't scream. I just sat in the driver's seat, camera on my lap, hands gripping the wheel like it was the only real thing left. On the screen was the photo Madison, arm around Jacob's neck, eyes closed, kiss still in motion. A moment I was never supposed to see, but I did, and she'd never be able to erase it. I drove home in silence. No music, no calls, just the sound of my tires on cold pavement and the quiet hum of thoughts moving too fast to catch. The picture was still on the camera screen, that frozen kiss glowing in the dark of the passenger seat. By the time I pulled into the driveway, the sky had turned that colorless gray between night and morning. Everything looked the same. Porch lights still flickering, Madison's potted plant still half dead on the step, but I felt like I was stepping into a different reality. One where I wasn't a husband, but a placeholder. Prop in someone else's story. I didn't go straight to bed. Couldn't. Instead, I sat at the kitchen table and powered up my laptop, the screen casting a faint blue light across the room. That photo, it was the beginning, but I needed more. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want a screaming match or some messy breakup with slamming doors and broken dishes. I wanted clarity, so I made a folder. I called it /proof/, plain and uncreative. Just facts. Cold and clinical. I wasn't thinking like a husband anymore. I was thinking like a case file. The photo went in first. Full resolution. No edits. Next, I went back to her phone behavior, her late nights, her balcony whispers, the suspicious Zoom calls. I started retracing her movements based on what I already knew. Madison rarely turned off location tracking. She was too confident, too sure I'd never question her. That worked in my favor. I opened our shared cloud account. She never removed my access, and began piecing together geolocation data. Timeline markers. Image metadata. Every photo she'd ever taken from her phone that got backed up. Even the ones she thought she'd deleted. Wednesday evenings stood out. Almost every week for the past 2 months. She'd pinged in the same area, Midtown. Always near the same luxury hotel, the one with the logo from the keycard. The same one in that photo Jay sent. Sometimes she was there for hours. Other times, just under 1. But always on a Wednesday. A quick search through our rideshare history. She never deleted old receipts. Showed recurring destinations to that same location. Different pickup points, same drop-off. Every time I asked where she'd been, she said, the office. I'd even brought her coffee to that office. I knew the building. She wasn't there. I *T everything. Geopins. Ride receipts. One even had a timestamp that matched a Wednesday she told me she had a stomach bug. Said she'd stayed home all day. But the receipt said she'd taken a ride downtown at 5:42 p.m. From our house to his hotel. That file went into the folder too. Next, I checked drawers. I wasn't looking to dig. I was just checking. Seeing if she had left anything behind that contradicted the life she kept feeding me. And there it was. In the drawer under the bathroom sink, tucked behind a travel-sized mouthwash and a cracked eyeshadow palette. A ring box. Velvet, gray, expensive-looking. Inside, a delicate engagement ring. Not the one I'd given her. This one was thinner. Modern. The kind you see in branded commercials, all minimalist angles and soft gold. Still had the boutique tag in the box. Lawson and Finch, downtown. Lawson. Jacob Lawson. I flipped the tag. There was a date on the back. Ordered 2 months ago. Madison had been wearing it occasionally. I'd seen it, assumed it was decorative. Fashion piece. I never thought to ask. I took a photo. Captured the ring, the box, the label. Next, I went into her work email, the only thing I still had access to thanks to her autologin on our shared laptop. Most of it was dull. Campaign briefs. Vendor receipts. But then I found an email from a client partner, unrelated to the one she said she was working on, thanking her for attending their retreat with your fiancé. No mention of a shoot. No agency reps. Just, you two were glowing. It was so refreshing to see a couple so in sync. There was even a photo attachment. I hesitated, then clicked it. The image opened slowly, the kind of delay that makes your stomach turn. Madison was on a balcony, wine glass in hand, standing next to Jacob. They looked casual, comfortable, like they belonged together. Her hand rested on his chest, and he had his arm wrapped around her waist. Their bodies leaned into each other like magnets. She never told me she went on a retreat. I saved the photo. I saved the email. I saved everything. Over the next hour, I built a timeline. Like a detective. Like someone who had finally stopped making excuses for why things didn't feel right. I documented the overlapping meetings, the calls, the out-of-nowhere plans that magically lined up with his public appearances. Yes, Jacob Lawson had a LinkedIn. He was real. His title matched what she once referred to as a mid-level guy who's kind of clingy. She said it like it was funny. Now I knew it wasn't a joke. It was cover. And then one final check, her browser history. There, sandwiched between agency software and Pinterest boards for clean kitchen tile, I found visits to bridal blogs. Not just general ones. She'd been on registry sites, looked at venues, read articles titled, How to Choose Between a Public Proposal or Private Moment. That one almost made me laugh. Almost. Because all this time, while she was sitting across from me at dinner, asking if we should rewatch Succession, she was planning a second life. While I was researching anniversary getaways, she was calculating how to pull off a dual reality without tipping either side over. But I wasn't angry. Not then. I felt removed. Like I was watching a story I didn't recognize. Like someone had dropped me into a plotline I never auditioned for. And finally, I sent the email. To HR. I kept it short. Subject. Conflict of interest/ethics violation. To whom it may concern. I am submitting this as a formal report regarding a breach of professional conduct involving Madison Carter, creative director, and Jacob Lawson, client executive. Attached you'll find documentation evidencing a personal relationship that appears to have interfered with agency-client boundaries and may represent a conflict of interest per your internal policies. All materials are provided solely for verification and internal investigation. Redacted. I attached everything. The hotel receipts. The photo of the kiss. *TS. Email exchanges. Geodata. The ring photo. The timeline file. Even the event invite with the word fiancé circled in red. No commentary. No dramatic accusations. Just evidence. Cold. Clean. Silent. It was no longer about heartbreak. It was about truth. And no one could argue with that. I hit send. And for the first time in weeks, maybe months, I closed my laptop and felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Not peace, but control. And that was enough. I didn't expect anything to happen right away. You don't pull a pin from a grenade and expect the world to explode in front of you that second. Takes a moment, a breath, a silence before the detonation. That silence lasted 2 days. For 48 hours, I went about life like nothing had happened. Woke up, made coffee, answered work emails, folded laundry. I didn't ask Madison anything. Didn't mention the event, the kiss, the photo, the ring, the folder, or the email I had sent. She didn't say anything either. She acted normal. She kissed me on the cheek before leaving for work. Smiled in that same practiced way. Said she might be late on Friday because of the seasonal gala, the agency's biggest event of the year. Awards, sponsors, drinks. She was going to be in charge of welcoming the big names. She asked if I wanted her to bring home cake. I said sure. She left. That was the last thing she ever said to me with confidence in her voice. The gala was scheduled to start at 5 p.m. sharp on Friday evening. And at 4:45, 15 minutes before the lights dimmed and the speeches began, my email landed in the inbox of her company's HR director. I know this because I delayed it. I scheduled the message 2 days earlier. Set it to autosend at exactly 4:45. Not 4:44. Not 4:46. 15 minutes before the evening kicked off. Right when everyone would be in place, phones on silent, Wi-Fi still active, eyes on their inboxes for last-minute cues. I wanted to time the truth with the moment she stepped into her spotlight. And it worked. I refreshed the agency's website at 5:12 p.m. She had been listed on the landing page for the event under featured guests. But when the page loaded again, she was gone. No photo. No name. Just a blank space where her title used to be. By 5:25, the phone calls started. Her coworkers, her team leads. One even came from a number I didn't recognize. Later realized it was the agency's office line. I didn't answer a single one. I let them ring out one by one, then deleted the voicemails as they came in. Some were vague. Hey, just checking in. Everything okay with Madison? Others were sharper. Can we talk about what you sent? One simply said, "What the hell, man?" I said nothing. To any of them. I wasn't part of the show anymore. I wasn't backstage. I wasn't crew. I was just the guy who turned the lights on. By 6:30, someone pulled down her bio from the staff directory. By 7 o'clock, I saw her fiancé, Jacob, delete his LinkedIn profile. Just gone. 1 minute it was there, filled with buzzwords and fake humility. The next, a blank error page. By 7:15, the agency's internal portal issued a company-wide bulletin. I didn't have access, obviously, but one of the **TS sent to me by an anonymous number said, "We'd like to remind all staff of our company's policy on transparency, professionalism, and maintaining appropriate boundaries in client interactions. Please review Section 5B of our Code of Ethics and speak with your manager if you have concerns." No names, no details, but they knew. Everyone knew. And that's the thing about silence. Once you break it, people suddenly remember how loud the truth can be. I imagined Madison standing there that night, dressed to the nines, ready to collect her little award or introduce someone important, when her name vanished from the screen. When her coworkers looked at her with wide eyes and pursed lips. When the event planner whispered in her ear and walked her off stage. I imagined her pulling out her phone, checking her inbox, scrolling down to see that forwarded email from HR, with my name still visible in the submitted by field. I imagined her scrolling through the attachments, one by one, the kiss, the receipts, the **TS, the ring, the timeline, the client retreat photo, the one she forgot existed. I imagined her reading the subject line, "Conflict of Interest Internal Review Request," and then realizing she couldn't spin this, couldn't brand it, couldn't storytell her way out of it. Because this wasn't an argument. This was documentation, evidence, raw, sharp, boring truth. And the truth doesn't blink. She didn't come home that night. No explanation. No text. No, "Hey, I'm staying with a friend," or "Give me some space." Nothing. At 10:42 p.m., I heard her car in the driveway. I stood up. Part of me braced for screaming or tears or some attempt at damage control. But the headlights turned off, the engine stayed quiet, and then silence. She never came in. I checked through the blinds. She was just sitting there, hands on the steering wheel, staring at the garage door, for 23 minutes. And then she drove away again. I don't know where she went. I didn't care. That same night, I moved the folder onto a flash drive, labeled it "Closure." Zip, put it in the drawer. I didn't need to open it anymore. I'd done what I needed to do, not out of revenge, not to humiliate her, but because I refused to let myself be gaslit into thinking I imagined all of it. There's a strange power in proof. Not because it changes what happened, but because it keeps your sanity intact. The next day, a friend from college messaged me. We weren't close, but she worked in marketing and had crossed paths with Madison's agency. Her text just said, "Saw the fallout. You okay? If you ever want to talk, no judgment. I've been there." That was when it hit me, people were talking. Not just whispering behind desks or sending DMs. This thing had a ripple. It moved. It jumped from office to office, team to team. Madison built a reputation off charisma, creativity, big ideas. She was the one who got people excited in meetings. She knew how to win a room. But now, her name was radioactive. Not because of what she did to me, but because she broke their rules. Because she exposed the agency, risked the accounts, tarnished the brand, lied to the people whose reputations were tied to hers. People don't care when you cheat on your spouse. They care when you cheat the image they invested in. By Sunday, Madison still hadn't come home. I got texts. Not frantic. Not angry. Just hollow. "I need time to think. I'm sorry about everything. I never meant to hurt you. You deserve better. You ruined everything." That last one made me laugh out loud. I ruined everything? No. She lit the match. I just opened the window. And if that breeze carried the fire through the building, that wasn't my fault. That was hers. That was Jacob's. That was everyone who clapped for the lie and pretended they didn't see the smoke. By Monday morning, a different HR rep emailed me, politely confirming receipt of my report and stating that appropriate actions have been taken in accordance with company policy. I didn't reply. What was there to say? I wasn't looking for a payout, or a statement, or an apology. I just wanted them to know what kind of director they were parading around. I wanted the illusion gone. And now it was. Later that day, I packed up some of her things. Not as a statement, not in anger, just practically. Shoes, makeup, the fake diploma from a branding boot camp she always bragged about, the mug that said "Girl Boss," the book about marketing like a human, the keycard from the hotel, and the velvet ring box, still containing the elegant band that never belonged to me. I placed it all in a clean paper bag. No note, no gesture, just a quiet, finished thing. And I waited, because I knew. Eventually, she'd come home. And when she did, there wouldn't be rules anymore. Just consequences. She came home days later, quiet and smaller somehow. No fury, no excuses, just hollow explanations. Said the ring, the kiss, the whole thing was meant to wake me up, to test us, to see if I'd fight for her. She called it performance. I called it betrayal. I didn't shout. I didn't beg. I just listened, nodded and said, "We're done." She left the ring on the table and walked out. No drama. Just silence. Madison left without resistance. We split the house, the things, the silence. I didn't look back. Weeks later, I met Jenna, quiet, honest, no games. We talked about books, argued about movies, laughed without pretending. No locked phones. No secrets. No need to perform. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't living inside someone else's story. I was writing my own again, and it felt like breathing.